This video is sponsored by Crimson Manifesto, Knuckles OX, and Baba Snake. If Naruto won at the Valley of the End the first time, a decent bit of the timeline changes. Number 1, the village's wisest decision from that point would be to send Sasuke on the trip with Naruto and Jiraiya, as he can best keep the boy from the Snake Sani, as he is the least current strongest and may be able to sway him from Orochimaru's grasp. Number 2, both Naruto and Sasuke would grow massively while competing with each other under the Toad Sage, to the point that Naruto may even be pushed to go ahead and learn at least an imperfect Sage mode and try to surpass the 4th earlier. And Sasuke may even have the truth behind Itachi's betrayal explained to him far earlier to placate him, which could arguably lead to an earlier attaining of the Mangekyo Sharingan from all that emotional pain. Any way you slice it, that means that by the time of their homecoming 2.5 years later, they'd be leaps and bounds stronger than their canon selves at this point. Not to mention, Jiraiya could definitely be helping to locate Itachi in order for he and Sasuke to reunite and clear the name of the Uchiha. And with Naruto's goal of being Hokage now seeming more attainable than ever, I'm sure the Ashura Reincarnate would encourage his friend to go through with this. But first, they'll need to go save Gaara. Be sure you subscribe if you'd like to see more from this story. If you haven't read the title, this is a full super mini movie compilation of my What If Naruto Won, or What If Naruto Won and Brought Sasuke Back Early series of shorts for 2023. Instead of just bunching everything together, I'm going to do my best to slot in these new segments about as long as the shorts themselves for the sake of addressing points brought up in the feedback of the individual parts. Like for instance, with part 1 here, a great deal of discussion was just about people's excitement for the idea and encouragement to expand on it. That way, if I or anyone else ever get the wild hair to come back to it, or any of the ideas explored through it, there's a better way to go through the story than the shorts. For instance, I really got the idea for this super mini series from watching the Storybusters' own What If Naruto Won series, which I believe he's rebooted once before, so it's dope for me to pay the inspo forward. One of the other interesting talking points was the effect the curse mark would have on Sasuke in this timeline, and whether as a student of Jiraiya it would interfere with his possibly attaining classic Sage mode and the gathering of nature energy, / why Sasuke may not wind up with Sage mode. But in the end, I think there could easily be a way written that maybe ties in Sasuke's self-awareness and resolve in interesting ways, since he keeps the mark but doesn't join Orochimaru, and because of that he should explore abilities and techniques that Orochimaru in this timeline isn't around to teach him. There was also a point made that it seems a bit weird to let Sasuke go on a training trip after establishing himself a traitor and a flight risk from the village. But to contextualize this further outside the confines of a 60-second short, I'd still strongly argue there is much more utility in not increasing Sasuke's resentment to belief. So sending him with Jiraiya as the village's current strongest shinobi to both keep a more effective eye on him, and serve as a means to dissuade him from following Orochimaru, will yield more desirable results. Also, keeping him moving around alongside Naruto and he, instead of held in a prison or on house arrest, would avoid inviting subsequent attacks on the lead from the sound, and make it harder for Orochimaru to come after him. Beyond even that, it could technically increase Orochimaru's chances of running into someone he doesn't want to see even more than Jiraiya, since he'd be more predictable while playing a game of cat and mouse, which would make Jiraiya's efforts to spy on him easier in the process as well. To quote myself, Jiraiya and Naruto have the best chances of keeping track of Sasuke, protecting him, and convincing him to take another route to his path to power. Another very interesting discussion topic was whether or not Itachi as a spy worked for, with, or reported to Jiraiya about his findings on the Akatsuki, and whether or not that would give him any privy to the truth behind the Uchiha massacre, allowing him to use that information to persuade Sasuke. This still isn't really concretely confirmed or denied, but I personally subscribe to the idea that the two work together to some capacity, since it makes sense and gives scenes like Itachi and Kisame retreating from Jiraiya even more sensible context, and there are after all other implications to suggest it. Beyond this though, even if Sasuke isn't given the flat out truth just yet, I think all we would really need is just a hunch or a hypothesis from Jiraiya as a master spy to get Sasuke to at least begin considering different options and viewpoints. They would after all have 2 years, so I mean consider it a damage over time version of Talk no Jutsu. The final comic discussion of note was Gamabunta and Naruto's use of him or lack thereof in the first Valley of the End fight with Sasuke, which I still maintain in the grand scheme of things probably wouldn't have helped Naruto out all that much. As one last thing, since I'm sure someone will be curious but wasn't really discussed in the comment section of that first part, my reason for using the Izuna Uchiha renders, or at least his outfit for this version of Shippuden Sasuke, is mostly because they wouldn't be in the village to get his alternate timeline Infinite Tsukuyomi outfit, and I didn't want to commission art for a few shorts. But another way to interpret it beyond me being lazy and cheap is it could easily be Sasuke choosing that outfit after doing some research into Itachi and his mystery with Jiraiya. Maybe Sasuke learns about Izuna a lot earlier and maybe feels a lot more connected to him in this timeline because of it, and beyond this, I think the outfit and colors look really good as a counterpart to Sage Heiori Naruto, who'd just be regular timeskip Naruto in this verse. Certainly a small detail no one has ever really questioned me about, but it's neat to know. If I continue the story of Naruto winning and bringing Sasuke back to the village early, I'd mention how Jiraiya and his two students will return to the Leaf, Sasuke thankfully getting a clean behavior report to be taken off probation, and Kakashi and Sakura being happy to have he and Naruto back as well as to see their skills on the bell test. The big change here being the Pink Cat is likely even more motivated to capture to her friends than in canon, to the point I believe she, like Neji, would have already pushed herself to a Jonin, meaning her getting teammates have some catching up to do. After assessing their skills, Team 7 heads out with Temari to the sand, but Naruto and Sasuke reason they should go on ahead, as they can move far faster than this. Kakashi gives the go-ahead, and is surprised when the two activate Sage Mode and a seemingly controlled version of the Curse Mark respectively, before pushing on ahead, reaching the hidden sand, and then even Deidara and Sasori far before everyone else, and yes, even taking them down in a 2-on-2 match, having arrived with time to spare in order to save both Gaara and Shukaku, meaning once again the timeline diverges a great deal here, as well as the factor of them getting information of a rendezvous point with someone spying on Orochimaru as their next order of business. And remember, your next order of business should be to make sure you subscribe. This is where we'll possibly see either limitations or strengths of expanded on super minis like this, since all in all there wasn't a lot of notable discussion or at least not much contention towards decisions or choices made around here. This was after all the short on which we as a community decided to do this, since I gave you guys a light goal that was pretty easily beaten. I think it's also important to admit the other reason this series is done as a super mini is because it's a premise I don't personally find super fit for a full drawn out story like some of my other Naruto what ifs a la Zabuza survived Jiraiya adopted. Maybe a skill issue, but my take on this is if you really think about it, for about 2/3 or so of the series, the goal of finding and bringing back Sasuke while a part of Naruto's overall motivation and dream can honestly be considered a detour or waste of time at a lot of points. The whole how can I become Hokage if I can't save one friend conundrum is born from this conflict after all. And if you consider it further, the only times Naruto is ever being productive towards his overall goal while also focusing on Sasuke is during the training trip and right after reuniting with him and recognizing the gap between them still. At most other points, Naruto is either actively pursuing both these goals at once, or worse, he's in a state where they both complicate things to actively harmful levels, like when he had his panic attack. Granted, growing stronger to beat Sasuke was a step down the path of growing into the Hokage, but it certainly wasn't the most efficient use of the time. In a universe like this essentially means that not only would a relative waste of time be removed, but so would an obstacle that simultaneously becomes an extra ally and training partner, where at this point in canon, Sasuke would be neither. The only downside then kinda comes from the power scaling lens, as Sasuke wouldn't get access to Orochimaru's ninja PEDs, and it is implied that they account for an immense amount of his growth during the time skip. But at the same time, that could be offset by simply getting a bonus in training from having a strong rival there who isn't simultaneously sidetracking your efforts. Also, the concept of a controlled or mastered curse mark is introduced here, so let me expand on my thought process behind this briefly, aka Yap. We know the curse mark as it exists from Orochimaru is derived from Jugo originally, but really works on the premise of imparting Orochimaru's influence and power and a little bit of his soul on the recipient should they survive and better yet have an affinity for it. We also know that Kakashi was able to perform a sealing jutsu on it that he stated would have a strength, potency, constitution, what have you that would suppress and eliminate the effects of the curse mark in positive correlation to Sasuke's willpower. Though this is really where explanation and exploration of the nature of the curse mark began to slow up a lot in canon. Hence my headcanon here being introduced is that by the virtue of Jiraiya being a better practitioner of sealing jutsu, he would have a greater number of solutions and effectiveness to deal with Sasuke's curse mark. So one way could possibly be to somehow remove the influencing part of the mark so that only the power is left, as we do see Jugo later go on to share his curse mark power with Sasuke to amp the Susanoo, and when he did, there's nothing to really suggest he had any influence on Sasuke. So there is precedent for the influence and the amp being separated. And doing something like this would also probably be a goal for Jiraiya if he indeed wanted to teach Sasuke Sage Mode, since Jugo's curse mark naturally consumes nature energy needed for Sage arts. So that could even be a component of how this evolved or edited curse mark functions. Maybe the suppression seal absorbs a minute amount of nature chakra passively, which it burns up to stave off Orochimaru's influence. And that way the curse mark level 3 concept, or Sasuke's new awakening, could be his own version of Sage Mode. I could even see the aesthetic for it being something like the fiery moving form of the tattoos of level 1 take on as they spread throughout the body before becoming solid black, just kind of staying in that form. Or maybe you would get the tattoos in the curse mark level 2 stage. My only real reason for not going the route of giving Sasuke Sage Mode as well was that it would be less special for Naruto and is meant to after all be rare, so it feels like if you do give it to others that canonically don't get it, that should almost be the premise of the what if as the chief change. At the same time though, it could have worked because just like Sasuke with his Sharingan, Naruto has his Jinchuriki abilities that he can over time learn to stack with Sage Mode, so in the end it would have evened out some way. Plus the different powers could also be used in cool varied ways. Like instead of mixing them together and burning up your stamina twice as fast all the time, using them separately for different purposes might yield better results. So maybe using the Sharingan for perception and speed based needs, and the mark for defense and attack based needs. And I know from some polls that I've done that Sasuke's curse mark and the forms and aesthetics of it still remain some people's favorites even above his Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and Rinne Sharingan forms, so I doubt anyone would really be all that mad, and it does after all add to the idea that this would be a pretty overly idealized timeline. Upon their return to the Village of the Sand, with the living Gaara and his saved-tailed beast, Team 7 are celebrated as heroes, as word of a powerful blonde-haired, blue-eyed shinobi and the Leaf's last Uchiha effortlessly beating back members of the Akatsuki quickly makes the rounds. However, Naruto and Sasuke are not paying attention to this, as both are immediately prepared to aid in the search for information needed to stop Orochimaru. Born of the thanks they feel towards Jiraiya as the teacher who has helped them both gain the growth needed to earn both the recognition of others in the case of Naruto and the desire for results in the case of Sasuke. However, now that things have winded down, something is revealed to the duo, that upon Sakura's Jonin promotion, and recognizing the two of them deserve no less than a Tokubetsu Jonin promotion at this point, Kakashi has been deemed unnecessary as a senior Jonin to act as the cell commander. At least not at all times, when his skill could be used to better develop another set of Genin, hence Ebisu's duty as the sensei of Team Konohamaru having been passed to him. Now that Sakura can act as the cell commander, our trio need a third Genin or Chunin level teammate, and considering how tricky their targets are, Sasuke has a suggestion for his pick, asking for the status of Neji Hyuga. When learning Neji too has become a Jonin, Sasuke then asks of Hinata, Naruto agreeing that'd be a great idea, and setting off to find her using Sage Mode sensory. Not long after, the same meeting with Sai takes place. However, a Naruto this strong is easily able to apprehend Sai, and thus is carrying him unconscious over his shoulder as he ends up running into Team 10, and conveniently, Team 8. The same awkward but cute reunion happening for Hinata here, but unlike in canon, Naruto hastily says he needs her, casually insisting it should only be temporary, and dumping Sai in Team 8's lap, claiming him as a replacement. With this, a well-prepared four-man cell is formed, and Kabuto is successfully nabbed as they all book it, leading to them being pursued by Orochimaru instead of confronting him on the bridge. As Kabuto's deceit is discovered, Sakura as a fellow Jonin level medic with the aid of Hinata take him on, and surprisingly are even able to best the young shinobi equal to Kakashi, while Naruto and Sasuke as inheritors of Jiraiya's will attempt to take on Orochimaru. The Snake Sonin being immensely intrigued to see Jiraiya's sealing arts have allowed Sasuke some form of independent control over his curse mark, as well as the sheer growth both he and Naruto have made as the pair sufficiently overpower him and capture him. Giving Orochimaru a choice as Jiraiya once did, Sasuke tries to reason with the man pursuing perfection the fear of oblivion at Orochimaru's core, while Naruto holds the serpent down with his sage strength, with the threat of surrendering or facing true oblivion at the hand of the Amaterasu. Orochimaru and Kabuto surprisingly surrender. However, just as they do, two more powerful chakra signatures enter Hinata's field of view. Recognizing their red-clouded black cloaks, Naruto damns that this is the worst time, while Orochimaru suggests it is likely one of the stronger duos, here to retaliate and make sure the Nine Tails is subdued. Once it's clear they cannot flee comfortable with captured foes as wildly as these, and that the new enemy will be on them soon, Naruto and Sasuke of course choose to fight, even though Sakura is ordering they pull back for now. Hinata insists the same, but by then it is too late, as Itachi and Kisame Hoshigaki appear in the flesh, rather than be a substitute, as a raucous battle breaks out in this revised Team 7 along with a wary pact with Orochimaru and Kabuto taking on this new threat. Orochimaru and Naruto supporting Sasuke as their greatest weapon against Itachi, while Kabuto and the girls use finesse to try and overcome Kisame's raw might. Obviously I didn't mention it, but this bridge is going to be blown to smithereens in this battle. But here, I think the most worthwhile thing to expand on would probably be the abilities of characters who've undergone changes by this point, for the sake of how choreography would go. So for example, thanks to Sasuke being around and adding to rather than distracting from Naruto's training with Jiraiya, I really don't think it's all that out of pocket to just see him get most of his advancements done through the first half of Shippuden out of the way here. With Sasuke around, the concept of completing the Rasengan still has a legitimate reason to be proposed, and simply through that, Naruto could open the door to expanding himself to more traditional elemental jutsu, likely find out the true power of shadow clones, and gain a wider range and better control of sage abilities, thanks to more time with the power within the time skip, which is also a massive change in his versatility and power at this point. This means more combo and collaborative opportunities as well, and Sasuke would also continue to serve in his vital role as a foil, somewhat jerkishly pointing out things that seem obvious to him, which lead to breakthroughs for the hero. So he could point out with sufficient chakra control, enough shadow clones, and a diverse jutsu pool, Naruto could infinitely be his own source of cooperation or improvised ninjutsu. Like a lot of combos and moves Kid Boruto pulls off that are relatively impressive in the grand scheme of things, could become open to Naruto, even if it's just using clones and when to turn himself into a human rocket. And Sasuke, seeing the benefit Jiraiya has gotten from it, could also push Naruto into the sealing arts, since I'm sure Jiraiya would appreciate having his aid in convincing Naruto to undertake a task which would require hitting the book so hard. And that could open up abilities like making your own explosives or storage devices, as well as things like Iruka's restraining seal, that again would offer wild amounts of variety to Naruto's toolkit, most of which his canon self never needed to climb to the top of the verse, so it really does demonstrate how far one can let their mind wander in the thought process of how strong could they have gotten if things were ideal. Meanwhile, Sasuke would also probably advance much like in canon, with possibly only his Kenjutsu skills taking hits since that's not really Jiraiya's forte. But even then, I honestly may be bold enough to make the argument that Sasuke could get similar if not better results from training under giant torch sword masters like Gamabuto or Gamahiro. So again, there isn't all that much lost in the end. Jiraiya can also easily help Sasuke expand on his natural affinity for fire ninjutsu, and to that end could even help him to implement oils into them to increase their effectiveness. Though in general, thanks to the Sharingan, much like with Kakashi, all of Jiraiya's and any other ally he spent more time around now than in canon, Sasuke would be able to copy many of their abilities if he appreciated them enough. So that means some of these Akatsuki members he'd never actually meet in canon could have their whole beat stolen bar for bar. Like imagine Sasuke specifically having calculated a way to corner and give Itachi no choice but to either reveal his secrets to him or hear him out using tactics and ideas Data were displayed when he took him on. Not exactly replicating it one-to-one, but enough to be effective as a multi-year plot cooked up specifically to kill his older brother that Sasuke stole and modified. Or vice versa, if he steals any of Sasori's abilities, he and Naruto could in tandem use his clones and chakra strings much like Chiyo and Sakura did to become an extremely dangerous force all of their own, only enhanced by Sasuke having much better perception and strength than Chiyo, and Naruto much greater durability and endurance than Sakura. And not to mention, Sasuke would just benefit from training under a spy like Jiraiya, so there'd definitely be some fun ways to use those abilities in these matchups we've had so far. All in all, the point is I glaze this idea of Naruto winning and bringing Sasuke back early as one that lets the characters reach beyond their full potential so easily just because it really feels like it would. As for Sakura and Hinata, the former at the very least could easily be ready and able to use her 100 healing seal if need be. Like I said, she'd have already kind of advanced herself to Jonin level just to try and keep up with Naruto and Sasuke a lot more fervently in this timeline. But even beyond that, if that is her goal, much like them, I don't think it's wrong to expect her to have already gained all the experience and traits she canonically would have during this first half Shippuden, if not a little bit extra. However, if this segment is just about new abilities for the sake of it, I think a generally good one would be for Sakura to learn both or at least either Chidori and Rasengan. It sounds a bit counterproductive considering how I was just talking about how I like diverse movesets, but Sakura is after all the bridge between the two characters of Naruto and Sasuke. And what's more, post time skip, her biggest issue in combat really becomes not having a truly devastating sure kill attack she can unleash when she gets a good opening, since more often than not, her monster strength alone and the taijutsu moves she has from it can leave some gaps for the opponent to either disengage or dodge if they have good evasionary skill. Beyond this, Sakura for sure had the chakra capacity and control for both techniques, but would likely be limited by having to choose which one suits her circumstances best, as well as a small number of times she can actually make use of them. For instance, not having a Sharingan means she can only use Chidori so effectively, but not having a boundless pool of chakra means pretty much the same for the Rasengan, meaning she'd be forced to carefully, creatively, and strategically implement them, like using Chidori for a burst of speed only to whiff the attack purposefully, so you can get in close with the full power blow of monster strength. It's certainly something where in most what ifs, Sakura is liable to get nothing, and if nothing else, Sakura of course always has the option of expanding into Genjutsu. End of the day though, I think an early Jonin promotion is pretty good work. While Hinata's growth would likely be similar but more intense, keep in mind this Naruto is one who led Neji on a successful Sasuke retrieval mission, so Hinata's admiration of him and desire to live up to his example would in fact only increase, to the point that I don't think it'd be out of pocket to scale her rather comparatively to the canon Jonin Neji at this point, while he in this verse would also be stronger on account of having been Hinata's sole presumed training partner, probably getting to a point where his uncle would want to personally train him even if in secret, since Neji's talent at that stage would be so generationally defining, he'd surely someday change the Hyuga clan as his strongest member in history. So in a way, despite how it looks at the initial outset, Kisame would not be getting an easy fight, as he's taking on a team of Kabuto, as well as basically Tsunade and Hayashi Hyuga, at least in terms of the numbers and results they put up, which would certainly be a tougher fight for the tailless-tailed beasts. Revealing the fruits of his investigation, Sasuke confronts Itachi with the truth, asking him to give up his martyrdom and help him give the spirits of the Uchiha peace. Moved by Sasuke's words and strength, Itachi's resolve crumbles as he decides he can't deny this request. Kisame is enraged by this betrayal, so much so that he tries to eviscerate everyone in one fell swoop by fusing with Samehada, nearly succeeding, but Itachi is swift to put his loyal former companion down, asking for his forgiveness and recognizing his earnest devotion to his comrades, as he gently puts an end to him. After returning to the village with such quarries, the mission is deemed an overwhelming success, while Jiraiya is quickly called back home, as the interrogation corps and village council are forced to work overtime as an influx of useful information and a direct accusation of Danzo's duplicity is launched with 3 credible witnesses. Aided by the inadvertent discovery of a root agent by Naruto before his mission, and a secret friend of Kakashi's in the Anbu named Tenzo, the case is open and shut, Kabuto and Itachi receiving relatively minor sentences, while in the case of Orochimaru and Danzo, they are blatantly left to rot by the village, whom now all look to Naruto and Sasuke as the next generation defining the will of fire. Unwilling to yield, Danzo launches a final desperate ploy to escape capture, but is beaten back after exhausting a few eyes for the Izanagi to escape the Leaf's forces, after being forced to yield before a triumphant Itachi and Sasuke, where Shisui's eye is reclaimed. From here, there is a lot of downtime, in which Sasuke visits his brother in prison to begin reconnecting, while Naruto does the same with all his friends through Hinata and Sakura. However, during a spar against Kakashi's team Konohamaru, Sasuke and Naruto catch wind that the next Chunin exam is being held in the Hidden Sand. With nothing better to do at the moment, they decide to enter for the chance to officially rank up, and see where they stack up to each other for the first time in a very long while. Once again returning to the sand as heroes and being welcomed back by Gaara, the duo become the odds-on favorite for the tournament, even with 2 teams from the stone sensei'd by the 4th and 5th tailed Jinchurikis, and coincidentally, a team from the hidden waterfall that features the 7th. This just means the competition is stiff, seeing Konohamaru's group just barely reaching the finals, as both Naruto and Sasuke have multiple casual battles since lots of their competition are their juniors, setting the final match as a one-on-one between the two after an additional month of training. Having taken the time to hone their basics to their pinnacle, as well as reconsider any new skills they can make from them, Naruto and Sasuke go at it hard in this finals match, with the Uzumaki revealing to his friend that not only has he mastered perfect Sage mode, but now, with Gaara's help pinning his mending of the bridge and agreeing with Shukaku to form a perfect Jinchuriki union, he's beginning to understand mixing Nine Tails and Sage Chakra together, through trying to better understand the Nine Tails itself, thus awakening him to a whole new level of power. While Sasuke is just as eager to test what he has learned from Itachi, and can now mix it with his perfect cursed form against his rival, choosing to not strain his eyes by harnessing this form's constitution in order to use his natural Uchiha synchronicity with Fire Chakra with his hard-earned Lightning Chakra mastery, for something he and Itachi reluctantly agreed with Orochimaru's name choice on calling the Dragon Chakra mode. In the end, however, the ultimate winner is Sasuke, as he just barely squeezes out the victory thanks to the advantage over Jinchuriki the Sharingan gives him. Naruto, Sasuke, Fu, and Konohamaru all earn the Chunin rank, and just in time as well, as instead of taking the bait of the gathering of Jinchuriki, the zombie duo have been sent to ambush Naruto, Sasuke, and Team Konohamaru. We've already touched on the growth the characters could have gone through during the time skip with these circumstances, but during this time in which the duo of Sasuke and Naruto will be completing their training with Orochimaru and completing their Rasengan with Kakashi in canon, we find ourselves in a really interesting point where, at least on paper, with the abilities they have, excluding the Sharingan and Kurama due to timing, they've already reached their full potential and levels of power where characters who canonically gave them a lot of trouble here give them significantly less. Deidara and Sasori being prime examples. So what could they expand on, or what would they want to learn in this time where obtaining an Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan and becoming a perfect Jinchuriki are a lot easier said than done? I had answers in the original shorts at this point in Sasuke's Dragon Chakra mode and Naruto's somewhat contradictory combination of Sage mode with the Nine Tails Chakra he could already control in canon under the 4 Tails amount, at least by this point in the story, though mind you this version should be stronger with a higher threshold he can control independent of Kurama in this context, though hindsight still makes me think I could have done better. For example, there's always Naruto's #1 talent, them hands. Sage Art gives access to Frog Kata, which along with using shadow clones in their own style of taijutsu and movement opens up more options for greater strength, mobility and positioning, and therefore control of the actual battlefield. Something I've always wondered about though is if the regular base nature energy used in the Toad Sage Fist technique or Frog Kumite or Frog Kata that surrounds the user in an aura could be manipulated further through chakra control, since the way that it can cause attacks that will seemingly miss or that are too far away to still hit could be considered a change in form. But could Naruto change the nature of the energy used in the Frog Kumite as well? Because if he did and had either the time or reasoning to attempt to, he could theoretically upgrade the basic version of Frog Kata to give it more oomph, range, and versatility, since you could add Wind's natural cutting power and maneuverability to every physical attack you make, kinda like a Wind Chakra mode or a Naruto version of Jin the Windmaster. And Naruto will only go on to get access to more chakra natures from there, like we've seen him use Earth a good bit in Boruto, so imagine an Earth style Frog Kata that amps his defenses a lot, and maybe the rate at which he absorbs nature energy into himself and imparts it onto others. And both these natures would probably amp the sensory abilities of Sage mode. Some of the natures he'll get access to would even be ones derived from Kekkei Genkai, and this isn't even touching on the concept of improvised Kekkei Genkai releases Sasuke later pulls off in canon, or at least what would be considered the more classic canon timeline here. Another option brought to light in recent chapters of Two Blue Vortex by Konohamaru are different variations and evolution of the Rasengan, as we now have the new defensive Wind style Rasen Barricade, and in chapter 10, a seemingly base Rasen Barricade variant as well. And that's really interesting because we still also have all the unexplored side effects to the different versions of Rasen Shuriken and nature-infused Rasengans used during the war outside of the Magna least one. So now those canonically unexplored variations can pretty much be doubled, which makes the mind run wild. Rasen Barricade being a shield technique used against a villain is pretty easily pushed through by Hidari Shidori once, and then Konohamaru seems to adapt and staves it off better the second go round with the Natureless Rasen Barricade, which is really interesting. And since Hidari is a character that outscales by a pretty strict degree, it's a pretty great showing and assist from Konohamaru. But I do have to wonder how the ability works more in depth. Like if someone weaker were to strike a Rasen Barricade, would it act kinda like running yourself into a Rasengan or Rasen Shuriken held up as a shield? So you wind up cut into with blades at such a microscopic level that it's like a poison that severs your chakra point, so you're blown back like you got hit with a counter punch of a Rasengan. Because that being a technique that Naruto kinda develops in some form of homage to what he's learned and gained from Neji and Hinata would be fitting, especially in this context, so it'd be cool and would make a lot of sense. Also, now that I think about it, I feel like a wind-style Frog Kumite would pretty much just kinda unlock early flight for Naruto. Like Sage Mode already allows you to jump like extremely high, and then from there you just kinda manipulate the wind around you to fall with style. Plus Sasuke technically still has a form with wings, so he can also fly. Speaking of Sasuke and his improvised Kekkei Genkai, the other thing we had was Sasuke's Dragon Chakra Mode, and this is a lot easier to expand on, I think. The name for it is admittedly from a fan suggestion I'd once gotten for a power-up in a different Naruto story of mine, but by this point I'd forgotten who'd said it. But the idea would basically be to take the principle behind a lightning chakra mode, or a regular chakra mode, or just a chakra cloak in general to amp a character, and combining two commonly thought of as tied to draconic or dragon elements in electricity and fire to make one. In the end though, I personally just love the Raikage's technique because it makes a lot of sense in the verse as a simple ability on paper that would take a ton of chakra and control over to pull off. A close example of it is probably the Mana Skin ability from Black Clover actually, which again was something that was explained as simple in theory, but to pull it off was better work. A lot of people wanted a better visualization of this, so the way I kinda saw it in my head was a multi-layered aura, kinda like the Blue Kaioken, with maybe the BS scientific explanation being that Sasuke maybe needs to use the heat of his fire chakra to warm up or regulate his body temperature in order to keep up with the speed the lightning chakra is causing him to perceive things and move at, since all the electric impulses his brain and muscles need to make use of his motor readiness potential could theoretically be supercharged to speeds even most high-level shinobi aren't accustomed to. Plus, with the connection to Orochimaru and Kabuto as the canonical snake stage who calls himself a dragon, he'd have some other inspirations to pull from dragons or mythos. And through the Master Curse mark, which I weirdly stopped mentioning as much by this point, Sasuke could maybe stack them together, which would simply look hype as fuck, since he number 1 would get wings, and number 2 his lightning chakra mode would turn black, like he's using Conqueror's Haki, and that would look really cool contrasted against the fiery red chakra aura. Also, if he's stacking them and already considered to have a Sage mode through his curse mark, this could technically be a Sage art, so maybe a Dragon Kumite. That way he can playfully one-up Naruto, since it's a bit more impressive to invent your own Senjutsu from the ground up. Also, I find this funny because this would technically be the ultimate example of both what I mean about the main characters being a bit too strong for a drawn-out story of this, and the Naruto isn't about ninjas meme, since this Chunin exam run back would just be a straight-up DBZ fight between Naruto and Sasuke. We won't spend long on the topic, but the other thing of note in discussion on this part is the Sharingan and how it affects the Jinchuriki and a perfect Jinchuriki, and whether Genjutsu resistance only applies to a perfect Jinchuriki and such. I don't think it matters all that much personally, since canon kinda answers this, and in these matters it's usually more about the strength of the Genjutsu itself and who cast it, since the one Obito used on Yaga, for example, was supposedly wildly strong considering how much it distorted him. And either way it's cut, you would have a better chance of dealing with the Genjutsu if you were on good terms with your Biju, as well as being considered a perfect Jinchuriki, versus the odds you would have if you weren't and they just begrudgingly decide to help you out of pride or self-preservation. With some prior info on Kakuzu and Hidan, the Leaf's new Light and Shadow know to be careful on this one, forcing them on the defensive at first, which leads them to gassing themselves out even harder than their previous fight did. And on top of this exhaustion, they also have to protect Konohamaru, Moegi, and Udon, as they are responsible for them on this trip. Thankfully, this hindrance gives them motivation to push past their tiredness, so even still, this sneaky tactic is not enough to get one over on the dynamic duo, forcing Kakuzu and Hidan to wager their ultimate techniques, which pair rather nicely against Naruto's vast vitality and power, and Sasuke's massive arsenal of technique. Just when it appears the day is won for the Leaf, however, Kakuzu pulls a sneaky trick by betraying and stealing Hidan's heart as a final gambit, this paying off, as just then, Sasuke's eyesight and Naruto's incomplete bond with Kurama lead to a small opening that is almost capitalized on, if not for the last-minute intervention of Roshi and Han while their teams are traveling, making good on Naruto's impressing the two and treating them as fellow human beings, and serving as a stark reminder that Naruto and Sasuke haven't reached their pinnacles just yet, and worse, won't always have help. No time to dwell on that though, as a 5 Kage summit has been called. Really, in the grand scheme of things, Hidan and Kakuzu are still beaten individually more or about as convincingly as in canon, since Kakuzu got defeated by Naruto with less control over Rasen Shuriken, so this version would probably just look like that fan animation of Kakuzu getting traumatized by Hashirama. And Hidan was outsmarted, outsped, and incapacitated by a version of Shikamaru that this Sasuke should still be way more dangerous than, and about as cunning. This also means if the enemies are swapped, the fights are still low difficulty, since Sasuke as a lightning chakra wielding swordsman has an inherent advantage against Kakuzu's Earth Grudge, on account of the elements, and the fact the man literally uses threats to fight and hold his body together. Hence a dirty trick that results in unexpected power for the bad guys being warranted, and Kakuzu and Hidan kinda joining forces and fusing is at least interesting to think about, since stealing his heart shouldn't kill Hidan, and if his curse is active, it would rebound the lethal damage. So Hidan could either be incapacitated while Kakuzu is empowered, or maybe he's hurt and in critical condition, but his unique body lets him keep supporting the stronger Kakuzu. Or you could get really crazy with it and maybe end up with a sort of Elden Ring style grafted being who could then just be a straight up fusion. Again, it's a fun thought and a cool way for Naruto and Sasuke to still be rewarded with ranking up and getting even stronger than they were, while also running into a threat that could pretty much have changed the course of the ninja world all on its own. Tsunade, accompanied by Naruto and Sasuke as her aides, wants to lead discussions about plans to destroy the Akatsuki once and for all. Initially, there is light pushback from the Stone and Cloud, but it is unnecessary as the Akatsuki have decided to be just as proactive, and so raid the summit held in the Land of Iron. Against the forces of Zetsu, Tobi, Konan, and all 6 paths of pain, the battle is drawn out and hectic, only made worse when Sasuke's left eye finally gives out from the strain of the Mangekyo, just as the coordination of the pains in such a tight location places the weaker aides and thus their loyal Kage in danger as the likes of C, Akatsuki, and Chojuro are lost. When all is said and done, however, against all the Kage, Pain is defeated, and Konan soon after, with the secrets of their past coming out once Tsunade recognizes them. But this is all according to plan, as Tobi eagerly decides to retreat with Zetsu once retrieving Nagato's Rinnegan, declaring the beginning of the 4th Great Shinobi World War as they go. Regrouping, the 5 great nations agree to form a Shinobi alliance, as it's decided that the remaining Jinchuriki, Naruto, Uzumaki, Fu, Han, and Gaara, will go to train under the perfect Jinchuriki killer B. Sasuke and Naruto have a heartfelt parting as they realize this is the first time they've truly trained apart in almost 3 years. So there really isn't much here to expand on from the comments other than the why don't Itachi and Sasuke just swap eyes thing. And I'm still kind of wary about this take because, trust me, I get it, it's a sound idea that makes sure all parties involved gain something, and is not so strictly stated in the mythos around the Mangekyo and Eternal Mangekyo that loss has to be a part of the equation to gain that power, since it is kind of wrapped up in the whole Uchiha paradox of great passionate love and horrible purifying rage being merely a small width away from each other. But I just don't think this is an option, at the very least at the time of writing and recording. I'm not convinced it'd be an option for everyone. Case in point, why would Madara not trade eyes with Izuna, whom he was extremely loving and loyal towards? Or why would Itachi and Shisui not just trade eyes so they could stop Danzo and the coup and secure peace together? The excuse there is probably Itachi's Mangekyo manifest, and even then, I mean, just run away and get it to manifest and then trade and come back. Because if they did, they could easily stop Danzo and the coup and secure peace together bloodlessly. We're kinda only now getting an example of an Uchiha awakening their Mangekyo because the pain and grief they're feeling is for the sake of someone else rather than their own, seen in Sarada right before the Boruto time skip. So I think if we were to see something like a consensual Mangekyo trade to obtain the EMS, it would probably be done into Blue Vortex and probably with more context and exploration of the idea as a whole. I just personally still think it makes more sense for a straight trade to either not be possible or at the very least make it a dice roll that could result in maybe one or both eyes not properly retaining their Mangekyo, or maybe even permanently losing a tomo of the base Sharingan. Like, Mangekyo is already rare, but its higher form shouldn't be a free power-up the Uchiha can use with carte blanche. Since they just have a little bit of unity and shared strength between them, that's kinda it, GG. So it's just a bit too convenient and story-breaking both in canon and here in this What If. After assuaging Naruto's fears about his eyesight by stating Itachi has already agreed to donate his eyes to him when the time comes, even though both were reluctant, Sasuke and Tsunade return to the village to shore up their defenses, preparing everyone for war by offering partial pardons to their prisoners even. And thanks to Tsunade's medical care helping stabilize him, Itachi is in great health when the operation to swap his eyes finally arrives. So while he is on the table, Shisui's eyes are transplanted into Itachi, allowing him to awaken his own EMS due to his close bond with his best friend. Even when compared to his brother, still Sasuke is awarded command of his own division alongside Jiraiya during the war, featuring aid from his brother, Kabuto, and even members of Orochimaru's disbanded Sound Village, thus allowing the Leaf a lot more powerful hands on deck to support the Uchiha brothers as they fight to buy Naruto then Jinchuriki time to act as their trump cards. Meanwhile, after meeting the befriending Killer Bee, the 5 Jinchuriki all face the Waterfall of Truth trial, and then go on to confront and defeat defeat their beast in combat. Naruto having the toughest time, but inevitably coming out on top, earning both a teary long-awaited reunion with his parents and unimaginable power as a reward. With this completed, the group fueled up with provisions and then set off to join the war, as the allied forces are simply too overwhelming for the comparatively mediocre missing ninja and Zetsu arm, causing things to look very dire for the Akatsuki very quickly, as an elite unit made up of Kakashi, Sasuke, and Itachi quickly find the enemy HQ and attempt to end things quickly by combining the power of their Mangekyo Sharingan. A solid plan, only marred by the unpredictable fact that the opponent is truly Obito Uchiha, who wins more than prepared to fight his old friend to the death using 6 corpses and his newly acquired Rinnegan. In the ensuing battle, even with the odds stacked against him, Obito seems unstoppable, until a clever strategy by Itachi and Kakashi makes his hacks backfire on him, therefore making an opening for Sasuke to finish him off, forcing him to resort to a desperate half measure to revive Madara and activate the infinite Tsukuyomi, extracting his soul from the King of Hell to imbue it in a victim to act as a base body for the soul to possess, this victim turning out to be Kakashi. As he is already racked with grief, this allows for Madara's return, and for him to make his play, and with no Edo Tensei Kage to back up the shinobi forces, Sasuke watches as multiple of his allies sacrifice themselves to save him. Sasuke is forced to respond with tenacity instead of hate, as Jiraiya and even Iruka fall to Madara's massacre, until finally Naruto and Jinchuriki arrive. However, even still, Madara continues to evade and siphon off their power using his Rinnegan, capturing chakra from each to build a mighty tree and see himself be backstabbed by Zetsu as the true mastermind. As Kage approves too much for them, Hagoromo intervenes to help his reincarnated children, bestowing 6 past chakra on them as they have already broken the cycle of hatred, and allowing them to inherit their allies' will and seal Kage with perfect teamwork and synchronicity. Immediately after the war, Naruto is quickly named the 6th Hokage, as no other candidate name remains in the running for long, seeing Naruto's found family of Team 7 including Hinata as an honorary member coming behind Naruto to help him as the village leader, and naturally leading to marriages for both pairings as soon their children Boruto and Sakura are born, both benefiting from basically being raised as cousins in this universe, as a still very alive and well Neji goes on to become their children's sensei, while Itachi lives on to become the village elder, often filling in Danzo's role with a greater deal of humility and compassion, resulting in a new era of peace for the ninja world in memory of those lost in the war. As an objectively young Kage, having risen to the position as just a mere Chunin, Naruto still truly appreciates the aid of his remaining mentors, in this timeline somewhat fittingly being assisted by Iruka as his official aid and advisor, while now also having a council of elders with Itachi as its lead. The benefit of this longer stint being more experiences for him, meaning Naruto gets to become more competent and comfortable Hokage and leader in this time, likely taking on his own Genin squad during his service as the third did, whom he'd surely raised in a powerful shinobi, as contemporary to Konohamaru's younger cousin Mirai, while Sasuke can comfortably take over Jiraiya's spy network, and thus Konoha and the shinobi world as a whole are much stronger and closer united. But now, the Uchiha discovers threats are beginning to loom that are not of a shinobi nature, so as Naruto and Sasuke reunite to witness their children's first chance to stake their claim on the new age, the Otsutsuki make themselves known. There isn't a lot to expand on here, but there is one sentiment I'd actually like to hear thoughts on in the comments. If this were to be the ending of Naruto and the setup for Boruto, how would you feel about it? Obviously, the classic canon is that for a reason and will only age to become more iconic and timeless, but as a remix of it, or even from the perspective of our own ultimate timeline where Kishimoto thought like I did for this super miniseries, how would you feel? As this story is primarily about Naruto being hyper-competent, successfully bringing Sasuke back, and obtaining the title of Hokage early, these aspects of his character will probably change Boruto quite drastically from what we know. For one thing, Naruto with the extra time should have already figured out a work-life balance, so instead, I think Boruto would more closely mirror Konohamaru in his original kind of characterization, wanting hard to live up to and surpass his family legacy. As such, under the master tutelage of his uncle Neji, along with Sarada and Mitsuki, who could likely be a bit more easily accepted into the village, formed the new Team 7, where they compete in their first exams open and earnestly, with no scientific ninja tools involved. And so thankfully, there is no discord as the Otsutsuki attack, with the young getting led by Boruto working to evacuate the civilians, freeing Naruto, Sasuke, and the 5 Kage room to go all out and show them out of the shinobi in a true reverse jumping in this timeline, with Momoshiki still being pushed to more than his limits, and quite possibly being defeated before he can pass on his karma, utterly shaking the timeline as we know it. But that's where we'll truly end things for now, though if you'd like to see the rest of Boruto's journey in this timeline, let me know and sound off in the comments. Sub too so you don't miss my future story. Rather than wait, since we've already come this far, and much of the new 2 Blue Vortex content is still a bit away from being animated and especially dubbed, it's got a while to be something that non-manga readers are even familiar with anyway. So let's go ahead and summarize some of what would happen in the Boruto era more solidly if he, like his dad, won early. So first off, the story is still too loose for me to know exactly what would happen beyond Boruto loses a fight and dies earlier should he not be given his karma, so we'll say Momoshiki still succeeds in giving it to Boruto. From there though, the story like I feared for earlier would kinda devolve into moments where Naruto and Sasuke as the old guard are maybe still a bit too dominant and relevant, with characters like Delta, Kenshiki, and probably Boro not really giving them much trouble, as now as full-grown adults in their prime, they're even stronger. Hell, Sasuke might be stacking his Master Curse mark on with the Rinne Sharingan, on with Dragon Chakra mode, on with the Susanoo to have a power-up in the exact same vein as Baryon mode by this point. So the real difference winds up being their influence on the next generation, who would likely be even stronger as well and more ambitious thanks to the names they want to live up to. Meaning fights with Boro, Ao, and anyone from the anime that pesters them would just go a lot easier. One of the first times maybe leading to a backfiring, as if Gaara is opposed and defeated more effectively and quickly, Jigen and Ishiki are more likely to move and do things themselves sooner, with more time on the clock to do damage. So it would really serve well as an even better equalization in coming of age, and would also be a moment where this version of student of Naruto Kawaki and student of Sasuke Boruto can really show off the fruits of their labor under these stronger father figures and masters, as Sasuke by this point could have already had some of the ideas and plans that he came up with for Boruto's training during the TBV time skip earlier as well. I'd also probably say this version of him is able to keep his Rinnegan if he and Naruto don't wind up teaming up and using their new one-time forms to hold off and defeat Ishiki together for one more convincing W at full potential, with a slick assist from Boruto and Kawaki, seeing Naruto lose Kurama and maybe Sasuke lose the ability to use his own Sharingan and therefore his connection to the Uchiha clan. I think this would probably result in Code having a much harder time with Boruto and Kawaki and thus gaining even less respect for himself, sadly, as I could very easily see the duo subduing him in this timeline, which could in turn lead to Ida's surrender and joining the Leaf, and then the Ten Tails being discovered before it can be divided. This very early win, much like Naruto and Sasuke once had, would then lead to some downtime where any divisions or mistrusts come to a boil, and much like the hospital roof fight, Boruto and Kawaki would have a skirmish that borders too far into the line of hatred, making a dangerous fray in their bond that needs mending. However, as Naruto once noticed this for him and did his best to repair that fray and hold them together, Sasuke advises Boruto on this early, so that when Kawaki seals Naruto and Hinata to keep them safe, and then goes after his adopted brother in fear that he's becoming an Otsutsuki, Boruto is better prepared, even to the point of strategically luring Kawaki to the Valley of the End, so they can go all out without hurting anyone. Due to her love for Kawaki, as well as everyone just being worried, many of the series' main characters rush to the valley alongside Ida, in order to do whatever they can to help and stop the fighting. However, they arrive at the very tail end of a clash that ends the battle in Boruto's favor. However, in her worry for him and desire to ease his suffering, Ada would still accidentally activate omnipotency, rewriting the identities of Boruto and Kawaki and swapping their places in the minds of the wider world. However, with a more stable position, Boruto is able to stand his ground and argue even for the position of Kawaki. In this optimistic and idealized timeline, likely resulting in the remainder of the Boruto era where, much like Naruto and Sasuke did, our hero and anti-hero who embody the sun and moon respectively remain together and find a more peaceful way to work things out, freeing Lord Seventh and Hinata immediately and vowing to make things right by always pushing each other as rivals and brothers and preparing to take on whatever challenges await them, even if they should come from a god. And all of that is my expanded upon take on What If Naruto Won and brought Sasuke back early. Towards the channel. Thanks for the views, I hope you enjoyed, and since I've already technically said goodbye once, I just want to say thank you and shout out to the supporters of the channel. Check out one of the videos YouTube's recommended you here at the end. Have a good one, remember to take care of yourselves and the world around you, remember to go beyond plus ultra, and I'll see you guys next time.